I get it. I get why some people like the movie and why some people hate the movie. It's two different movies in one. Hi, welcome to That's a Wrap, the channel where I review TV shows, movies, and movie trailers. Today's movie that I will be reviewing is Wonder Woman 1984. If you have not yet seen this movie, consider this your spoiler warning. So now let's get on to the review. So before I say anything or start reviewing this movie, I did enjoy this movie. I was entertained. I felt emotions. I laughed. I even cried a little bit towards the end because it's a very good movie. I mean, it does have its flaws. It does have its inconsistencies, as everyone is, or not everyone, certain people pointed out. And yes, I understand that it undoes certain things in other movies. But if you just take out the Joss Whedon Justice League, it really doesn't take off that much. So since I've seen the Snyder cut of the Justice League, I don't consider that other Justice League canon at all. Even though I know there's another YouTube channel that has tried to put both of them into a multiverse kind of a setting, and I found that interesting. But for me, I just took that out. And now that I looked at this movie through that prism, it was enjoyable. It doesn't undo anything. In the first part, she does kind of take herself, the cameras and all that stuff where people, there's no photos of her, even though I find that a little bit fantastical, but it doesn't undo anything. That dialogue that everyone criticizes from Diana in Justice League, if you just focus on the Snyder cut, that never happened, right? She never says about, be hiding away for 100 years, even though we know that she technically does do that. But it doesn't come into a discussion. And even that part where the whole Justice League is talking in the hangar, it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen in the Snyder cut. So I would wish people would leave that alone and drop it. Yes, is there inconsistencies? Of course there is. But if you take it as a follow-up, and I think this is just what the director tried to do, was a follow-up to her Wonder Woman, I completely enjoyed it. And if it was in that standalone kind of a Wonder Woman 1 and 2, the way I look at it is as a standalone movie, not attached to a larger multiverse, just Wonder Woman 1, Wonder Woman 2. I don't know how you can criticize it. Yes, if you go on full-on nerd mode, of course you're going to find flaws in it, because you could find flaws in anything. But again, for me, it was super highly enjoyable, and I completely enjoy it. But like I said in the beginning, it's two movies wrapped into one. And I get why people are upset, or some people might not like it. So in the first half of the movie, literally almost to the midpoint, I enjoyed that part. There was no complaints. I did not have nothing written in my notepad from the start to the finish. In the beginning, I could have wrote down the overacting in the mall scene, but I chose to leave that alone because I think that's just what the director had in mind, to give us a little bit of that, laughter, a little bit of that chuckle. But I didn't have nothing. I liked the action scenes. I liked the story, the character development. The whole thing was good. But then when it turns the second half, from that Egypt chase scene on, it does turn. And I can see why people are turned off by it. The story starts getting a little bit convoluted. It starts getting, the plot kind of changes. I don't know if it was because of the rewrites or whatnot, or if there was rewrites from it, but I get it. How, also I know how people were upset how Steve could fly a jet, even though he was a pilot, a World War II pilot, if I'm correct. And there is no way that the mechanics from that plane go over to a fighter jet in the 1980s. So, and if you're taking it literal, yes, but it was just because he was a pilot, and since he loved to fly, he could adapt quicker. And she even kind of hints to that of that's his gift, that he just knows how to fly, and insinuating that you could put him in any era, you could put him in a spacecraft and he would learn how to fly it. So I get why people are upset, but if you look at other movies like Independence Day, when Will Smith character was he was a fighter pilot, and then he just, with no training, less than Trevor at least, he gets into a spaceship and he flies it. Hey, you know what? It's Hollywood magic. Just chop it up to that. So I don't understand why people get so upset. I did find the cat makeup that, or as our villain is called, or not our villain, but the protagonist in this movie. I can't remember her name. Let me find the actress's name here pretty soon. Cheetah with Christian, that played, was the makeup of Cheetah was horrible. If you saw the movie Cats, it was literally that, a cast member from Cats joining Wonder Woman 1984. It wasn't a good look. So I could definitely relate to why people did not like that. I also found how Wonder Woman's flight, I mean, they kind of show it. She kind of, after she takes back her wish and she's going back to kick Cheetah's ass and fix this whole thing, she kind of hears his voice in her head about how to fly, how to just be one with the wind. But I don't understand why people are so upset about that. If you know anything about Wonder Woman, whether you read the comics, whether you've seen the animated movies or shows, she does fly. Like, it's not a secret. It's not like, how did she develop these storylines? If you're a fan of the DC animated multiverse, she does it all the time. So I would hope that those people aren't the ones that are complaining about it. If you're just complaining because it's not part of the DCU lore, maybe, but goddamn, she jumps really, really high. Hulk in the Marvel universe doesn't really fly, but he jumps really far distances where he might as well fly if you're really looking serious at it. So why people have a huge thing with this, I don't know. But anyways, I thought that 4th of July scene too, where they have the invisible plane and they go through it, I don't think that's the way fireworks work. If I remember correctly, they have to clear the airspace because it can take down a small plane or a chopper. I know they're in a jet, but I that part was like, what if they accidentally hit one of the engines and the plane goes down? So that kind of took me off of the storyline. And again, speaking of the invisible plane, why some critics and some people are getting upset that she makes a plane invisible? Yo, the invisible plane, along with her lasso of truth, have been literally, I think the invisible plane was introduced in the second comic of Wonder Woman. So how is everybody like, where did the invisible plane come from? Yo, are you not a fan of DC? Are you not a fan of Wonder Woman? Have you not followed any iteration of her or any version of her, whether it be on the comics, whether it be animated, whether it be even the TV show? The invisible plane is part of her lore. So in this one, they twist it a little bit, but come on, if you're gonna accept Marvel comics and the MCU twisting so much from their universe to then go over and criticize DC for doing the exact same thing, and just a minor touch to it is, maybe it's a lot of haters, but I don't know, whatever. Another thing I enjoyed about this movie was the score. Hans Zimmer is brilliant and will always be brilliant. Some people call him the the music of the gods, and I completely agree. And he definitely delivers again. But I will say this, in the last part, in the ending, when she attaches the lasso of truth to his ankle, which I don't know how that happened, just convenient plot devising, I guess, if you would. But if you notice the music that's being played, it's the same music in the Batman v Superman when everybody's gonna know it by this one, but when Batman goes, "Why did you say that name? Why did you say that name?" If you listen to the music, it's that music in that scene in there. I just thought, like, that's interesting that they're gonna use that music for there, but I shouldn't be, because Zack Snyder is, I think, the executive producer for this movie, for several movies, even the ones before his Snyderverse, the Christopher Nolan. He was literally executive producer in those too. So why people hate on all these movies, again, I don't know. But when I heard that music, I'm like, wait a minute, is this the Martha music in the background? So all in all, before I end this review, I did not like the ending. So it was a great movie all in all. I mean, it was a good movie. I'm not going to say great. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it. Like I said, but the ending, if you are a fan of any, well, not any, because the DCU hasn't done that. The Flash movie is going to come out, and it's hinting at a Flashpoint paradox. And if you've read the comic, if you've seen the animated version, there's so many of them. So the ending where, she wraps the lasso, like I said, in his ankle, and she's talking to the people, not necessarily to our villain here, from Game of Thrones, by the way. When she attaches the lasso and everyone basically unwishes their wish, the missiles go away, everything goes back to normal. It was such Flash paradox in that moment, because everything just returns to the way it was. No one really remembers her, nothing really happened. It just kind of resets itself. And I know people are upset about that, but again, are you not a fan of DC and what they've done? This is something that gets repeated over and over and over in the animated universe and in the comic books. I get it that it's not part of the Snyderverse, it's not part of the DCEU. I get that part. But you shouldn't get all bent out of shape, because again, it's part of the lore. If you're a fan of all-encompassing DC, not just the movies, then you'll understand this is just part of it. Did I enjoy it? No, it's kind of a cop-out. And go back and see my animated movies about, or my reviews on the animated movies. I say that it cheapens the story. It cheapens the ultimate risk of it. And if you always have an eraser, yes, you could tell a very interesting story. But if there's no repercussions, if there's no consequences, if everything just gets reset to zero, it does take a little bit of the enjoyment out. And it did a little bit for me. It took the sails out, I guess, the wind out of my sails a little bit, because I was like, okay, it's like a Flashpoint ending in a Wonder Woman movie. So anyways, before my rating for this is B-. Again, people are gonna get mad because, oh, you don't know movies, and get all triggered. Hey, you have your opinions, I have mine. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. Did you guys enjoy it? What did you guys think about her costume, all gold? I didn't really like that. It kind of took me off, because I don't think that's comic accurate, at least not the comics that I remember reading. If they are, let me know down in the comments. What comic is that from? Is it a new run? Did I miss some of the old runs? But again, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.